Welcome to Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Jimbo's Garage. Well, right here in front of me, I've got some 1.5-inch square tube that I've had my metal supply store roll into a radius for me. We got 3 pieces here. I'm going to be making a radius arbor with a radius gate that's going to fit inside this arbor. Let's get started on today's video. Today's video is sponsored by King Metals. They've got all your fabrication needs in one location. From hinges to hardware, balusters to metal decor, brass to aluminum, and a whole lot more. You name it, they've got it. Check them out today at kingmetals.com. Now let's get back to today's video. All right, so the first thing I want to do here is trim these radiuses to the right length. And now I know I'm going to get a lot of grief for this, but you can see that I got a 6-inch cutoff wheel and a 4.5-inch grinder with no guard. You know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. This particular setup right here doesn't have a guard. I'm using this oversized wheel because I need it in certain applications. This is one of them. I want to be able to cut straight through. I don't want to have to go around. I just want to be sure I can go all the way through with it. So just take your time, be extra careful, and you should be okay. So I had my metal supply store, like I said, they bend these things over. I have them extend them over so I can cut them to the desired length that I need. I like to run them as much as sometimes a foot longer than what they need to be. And once I got those all cut, you got the arbor plus the gate piece. I'll come back to the gate piece later. And now it's time to do some assembly. Now I got some notes right here that are scribbled onto a piece of paper. I'm not an artist, but you know, this is what I do to make things work for me. I do most of it in the field. And so I got the dimensions that I need. Time to cut these things up. So this particular material is 1.5-inch square tube 063. The radius pieces are 120 wall, 1.5-inch 120 wall. They want those a little bit thicker in order for the material to make the bend. This 063 material would not make the bend without kinking or folding, not bending properly. So the thicker the material, the easier it is for them to roll it. All right, I got the pieces bent, and I wanted to show you the difference here. You can see that it started off 1.5-inch square tube, so I'm 1.5 inches one way, but I'm about 1.75 inches the other way. By the time it goes through the roller, it squishes it down to about 1.75 inches, so I had to shim it up a little bit. You can see right there where it joins together at the radius. I got a shim underneath there, and you know, because it's an oblong shape, it's not perfect. I got some issues. You know, I'm going to have to use some filler material here to fill the big thick gaps. I'm going to have to put some extra weld in there and grind it down to kind of blend and feather it in. You'll see that here in just a minute. Using this trick, you guys may have seen this in my past videos before. If you got a big gap or something, it always helps to use filler material in there. Now, granted, it's not the prettiest thing, but you got to remember, I'm going to be grinding everything down right here and probably laying some more weld on top of all of that. All right, brand new zirconia flap disc for Mercer on there, and no problems trying to blend all this in, but you can see that it's not exactly perfect, you know. I come back, I do a little grinding, I come back and I kind of fill the low spots and come back and grind it in, do some more blending, and you can only do so much in a situation like this, and then you're just going to have to call it good. And that's pretty much what I do here. You know, it's not perfect, but you know, once this thing gets powder coat on there and it gets installed, it's something you're never going to see. And you can see me filling in right there. You know, some of them are more than others. I mean, I had some of them I didn't have to do too much on, and then some I had a lot of welding to do and a lot of grinding to do. But it all depends on how much you want it to look perfect. And you know, I can only do so much here until I just decide, hey, I'm going with it. It's good. Yeah, you can see I got a hole right there. You can't really see it on the camera, but right there you can see that the roller, when it rolls that radius, it just creases that to where it has a big valley in it. And, you know, that's pretty consistent all the way around that radius. And there's just so much you can do. But I can assure you this, I had 3 of these to make for this particular customer, and I'm just filming this one right here for you guys. I didn't want to bore you with all 3 of them, but they were very happy. It looked good, they worked good, and that's the important thing. All right, I just repeated the same process with the other one until I got everything all ground down and ready to start assembling the Arbor. All right, there they are, pretty close. And you can see it might be off just a little bit, but we're going to fix that here. And I'm just making my measurements right here. Now, this Arbor is going to be 12 inches wide. That's going to be the overall. So I'm cutting some 9-inch pieces, and I'm going to be placing them about every 12 inches on center. Now, there's one thing that I want to point out here. If you can remember, when the radius piece was rolled, if you remember, it rolled to about 1 3/4 inches, so it's no longer 1.5 inches. So in the straight sections on this, I'm going to be cutting these at 9 inches, and then on the radius part to make up for that extra 1/4 inch, you're going to be 8 1/4 or 8 3/4 of an inch long. All right, here they all are, and I'm laying them out accordingly in there. And now I'm going to pull the top off and go ahead and start tacking these in place. And I'm just using a 12-inch speed square right here. The idea is to get as close as I can to plumb and level. And I can make a little adjustments as I go along right here. Today's welder of choice is the HTP ProPulse 220 MTS. Seems to be my go-to machine for most of this type of stuff that I do. And let's see, I'm running 35 thousandths wire. And the gas is 90-10, 90% argon, 10% CO2. Running about 20-25 CFH. All right, so the straight pieces, those are the 9-inch long ones. These are the 8 3/4 inch. And I'm just working my way around here. So the idea is just get things tacked into place. And then I'll put the top section on, or the other side of the Arbor, the matching piece there, and then I'll tack it into place. And once everything is tacked and I'm happy with it, then I'm going to go ahead and just weld everything completely out. You know, if you weld these things completely, if you weld these legs, for example, if I welded these legs all the way around and if something wasn't right, I wouldn't have that opportunity to just knock it around and knock it into place. Where here, if I have adjustment, it's just a matter of just cutting off a tack and bending things around. And that's the way I like to do things anyway. I want to be sure that everything is going to fit where it's going to, with tack welds everywhere. And once I know that's good, then I can go ahead and finish out the welding. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's bring in the second piece and get it laid up on there, and it should be pretty good. You can see the piece closest to the camera right there. It is off about 1 inch, but that's not going to be a problem. This thing's very flexible. So I'm just going to tack in the radius pieces first, and then any adjustment that I can make in the straight sections, I'll just pull it around and straighten it up. You know, you might notice that on one side of the Arbor, the legs seem to be shorter than the other. Well, there's a reason for that. The shorter piece is sitting on a concrete ledge. The longer piece is actually going in the ground. I'll be digging a footing, and that's going to be buried in concrete in the ground. All right, I'm happy with it, so I'm just going to go and weld everything all the way around. You know, I mentioned before in the past, I like to weld everything completely all the way around, both sides, top and bottom. I don't want to leave any open seams or open welds that, you know, water or corrosion can get in there and cause a problem. So just by welding everything all, seals it up nice and tight. It just makes for a better job, and that's the way I like to do my projects. Another beauty here of having a welding table is, you know, for me, I'm in my 60s and I like to be comfortable. And with this nice big welding table here, you can see I like to get my projects up on the welding table. It makes it easier for me to be comfortable and you know, do a good job welding rather than being on my knees and trying to weld on the ground, stuff like that. it makes it nice to be able to be comfortable when you're welding. All right, just finishing up a little bit of grinding right here. Got all the welds done, and I'm just grinding down, not getting too carried away, just any high spots that might be on there. I just want to clean those up a little bit. Yep, nothing too crazy, just kind of cleaning things up. All right, got that out of the way. I'm going to set it aside, and now it's time to get the gate going here. Back to my crafty drawings here. Only I can read it. If you were to look at this, you'd be going, you're crazy. But hey, I understand it, and it works good for me. You know, another thing too I want to point out is if you're going to the building material yard, like I do a lot, you know, and I like to have my stuff cut. They come in 20-foot lengths, and so, you know, I can't carry 20-foot lengths on my truck very easily. So I like to have them cut maybe 10, 8, 10, 12, 14 feet, something like that, maybe 16 feet, depending on the project that I'm doing. You know, if you think your project's through, and you know that you can get, you know, as much out of the cut as you possibly can and reduce the amount of waste that you possibly can have, that really helps out in the material. I try to minimize my waste. Again, you can see that this is the problem here. I've shimmed it up, and I'm just gonna do the same thing here and just kind of clean that up. I got everything clamped down all the way around on this gate right here. This is another good way to go. Building gates, if you can clamp everything down, and so you know it's right exactly where it needs to be, and you don't have to, you know, make any kind of adjustments. This is a good way to go. You can just weld or tack everything in place, and you know it's not going to go anywhere. Again, I'm trying to work around this, you know, trying to fill these wide gaps from the rolled radius piece to the straight piece. Look at that one. That's ugly. Ugly mess. This is going to require a lot of work. A lot of welding, a lot of filling, a lot of grinding. But, you know, you just do the best you can. And just repeat the same process on the other side. And then just clean it up with a flap disc. Do the best you can. And this gate will be ready to start putting the pickets on. This is that really ugly weld right here. There was a lot of weld that went on right here, and a lot of grinding to try to shape this one into shape. I moved this thing in every direction, did as much as I possibly could to just blend everything in. And at some point, you just have to say, hey, it's going to have to be good enough. Yeah, here I decided to do a little bit more filling work right here. You saw I reached up and turned the amperage down a little bit. I'm trying to build it up a little bit. That was a bunch right there. But you know, it's not going to get any better. The farther you go up the radius, the deeper the crease is. And at some point I just said, you know what, I just got to go with it. And that's pretty much what I did right there. All right, here's the pickets right here. These are 5/8 pickets. And I've got my spacing blocks right here. You can see I've got them marked at 3.5 inches. So I figured that by the time I get to the other side over there, I'll be really close with 3.5 inches. There might be a little bit of adjustment on the final picket, but it shouldn't be much more than 1/8 of an inch. All right, I'm having to cut each one of these pickets individually to make it around the radius there, and you see that I'm adding these collars inside the pickets. Now that's just for some decor. These gates are tall and they just look plain in my opinion without anything in them. So I happen to have these collars, and I thought that was a good added adjustment to the gate right here to give it a little bit better of a look. Taking my spacers, going across, and then putting underneath. Don't forget to use the spacers underneath. This is about a 1/2 inch piece of plywood underneath there to get the pickets in the middle of the frame. And then I'm just welding one side right here. It takes a little bit of time on these, you know, to go around the radius and weld, and you know, to cut each individual piece, and that, But that's just the way you have to do it on something like this. It's different than if you had a straight piece of fence rail that you could cut them all, the pickets all the same, and just place them in there and just weld them right up. But I took my time, and one piece at a time, and ultimately I got everything in there. All right, so these collars, they come from King Metals. I get a lot of my decor, my hinges, decor, latches, everything I use for all my gates and stuff come from King Metals. I'm fortunate enough to have a facility close to me. I think they've got 2 or 3 around the United States. It's really nice. They have just about everything you'd ever need for anything. Made a little mistake right there, cut a little short, needed one more piece. I happen to have it. Luckily, I stocked some of this stuff in stock, a little extra. Sometimes you make mistakes. I don't know what happened to that. But anyways, nevertheless, last piece too. It's always the last piece. All right, back in the game. And you see me making that little adjustment there. It was about 1/8 of an inch difference. So I'm just moving that over to make up that difference right there. All right, got that all done. So what I've got is a piece of square tube stock right here, and I've just cut it to the right length. I forget what that was. I think it was about 20 inches off the bottom right here, and I'm just using that as a jig and using it, and I'll tack these in place right here. Now I'm only welding these on one side. Now I get a lot, and that's all you really need because it's just decor and it's not going anywhere. But, I'm getting a lot of people that says, hey, what about when you powder coat or paint? You're not getting the inside of that. And yeah, you're right. I'm not. But I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never had any issues with it. I powder coat my stuff, and I've had nobody call me back on it. And I've been back and checked these gates out, and everything still looks pretty good. So I'm okay with it. Yeah, on this one, you saw me scribe a line across there and it with a Sharpie, and I'm just moving it down to that line. All right, there's that. Now, one thing I got to do is go around and finish welding everything out on the radius and on the other side. Goes fairly quick though. Just filling that in goes pretty quick. All right, now it's trying to piece everything together. There's the arbor and there's the gate on the inside. Now I've designed this with to be a 2-inch offset all the way around. And you can see I've got some 2-inch square tube, and this is what I'm using for spacers all the way around to be sure that everything gets spaced properly. And it's time to weld on the hinges. Now for these hinges right here, I'm using these bat wing hinges. They're a real simple process. They have a 2-inch offset, but here, man, you got to be paying attention. I was about ready to weld these things in right here when I realized, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong side. Now, I've done this mistake before where you've welded it up and all of a sudden your hinges are on the wrong side and you've welded it on the wrong way. But I caught myself on this one, and I'm glad I did. All right, here's a closer look at those hinges right there. It's a simple little process, just a pin that slides into another hole there. And now they're not security gates by any means, but this arbor is going on in the backyard, this customer's backyard. So it doesn't need to be a secure gate. I'm fully aware that if you wanted to, you could lift that gate right off. And this, like I said, it's not a secure gate. It doesn't need to be that way. But I'd imagine if you wanted to, you could put a pin through it or something. Once it goes through, probably do something, weld a little knob on the end down there to keep it from lifting out. I suppose you could do that. All right, so this piece right here is just a random piece. This is probably the piece that I cut too short on the pickets. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to tack this in place right here. This is solely just for transporting back and forth to the powder coaters, back and forth to the job as well. And so the powder coaters don't bang it or mess it up. I just want to lock it into position, and that's all that this bar is there for. When I install it, I'll cut this bar off and do the touch-up with the paint at that time. All right, with that in, I'm just banging around these hinges and just going to finish welding up these hinges. And then I got just a little thing to do on the gate. I got to fix these hinges. and be sure they're in the right position, and I'll weld those out, and then it'll be time to kind of put this thing together and see what it looks like. All right, I had my lovely wife help me out on this. I had to line up this kind of heavy gate, and I had to line the thing up, and she was there to help hold it in place for me. The last thing I needed to do is put the thumb latch on here, and this job is complete. You know, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Like I said, I made 3 of these. This is the third one. I just wanted to film one and be sure and show you guys. You know, I enjoy doing all kinds of different things here in the shop, and this is yet just another really good project. I had fun building it. Don't forget to check out my website, JIMBO'sGarage.com. Follow us on Instagram. Check us out on Facebook. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next video.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.